Hello everyone, welcome to FOC class 11 and 12. This video is part 7 of Unit 3 Fundamentals of Java Programming for class 12 Information Technology IT Code 802.
If you want to purchase Class 12 IT Code 802 sample paper book, the links are given in the description.
First of all, let us discuss the contents that we are going to cover today. We will be studying the topic object-oriented programming. And under this, we will be studying classes and object, data members, and method members. These topics we will be studying today. Let's start. Java's most fundamental feature is classes and objects. As we are talking about object-oriented programming, so there is a word object-oriented. So it is clearly indicating that the programming or the coding which we are going to do is somewhere related to object. That is, it is object-oriented and objects are related to class. So that is why we need to study about classes and objects, and these form the most fundamental feature of Java. Now, in the previous slide, we just learned that objects and classes are the most fundamental feature of Java. And I also told you that these classes and objects are related to object-oriented programming. So we can say that Java is an object-oriented programming language, or you can say OOP. This is the short form for object-oriented programming. So Java is an OOP language where it has programs. In OOP language, program is a collection of objects that interact with other objects to solve a problem. Means, if we are normally talking about program, then what is it? It is a set of instruction. But when we are specifically talking about object-oriented programming language, then we can define the program as a collection of objects, and these objects basically interact with other objects. And why do they interact? To solve a problem. Means a specific task or any specific problem is given to them, and for solving it they interact with each other. Now what is object? Each object is an instance of a class. Basically, this statement is very important, and you must remember always that object is an instance of class. We will be discussing this statement in detail, because if I explain it now, there will be no use. You will not understand. Firstly, we will take an example, and after that example, you will clearly understand the meaning of this statement. So after this example, you will be clear with what is object, what is class, and what is program, and how all they are linked to each other. So in our example, we are going to create a database application for a bookstore. So we can say that we are going to make a program in which we will be storing some details about bookstore. Now, firstly, the question arises what to store. When we are making a program on bookstore, so we need to store something. But what will we store? We will store data. And this data will be about what? This data will be about all the books. And where are all the books available? They are available in the bookstore. Now, in our program where we are storing details about all the books available in the bookstore, we will be having objects. Now, what are the objects? Basically, all the books that are available in the bookstore, these will act as object. So, there will be different names of different books. Here we have taken general name, book number. So, book 1, book 2, all these will be example of objects in our program. Now, everything will have certain characteristics. First of all, let us take example of a human being. If we are talking about human class, then human being will be the objects, and every human being will have some certain characteristics, some specific characteristics which every human being will be possessing. Similarly, here in our program, we are having our object as book. So book will have certain characteristics and we are going to call these as attributes. So let us see what will be the attributes or the characteristics of the books. So the attributes are title, author, publisher, genre, price. All these are the attributes. Means these are the characteristics that every book will possess. We were having 5 books. In our example, we took 5 books. So all those 5 books, book 1, book 2, and so on, all the books will have these characteristics. Means every book will have a title, every book will have an author who has written it. Similarly, it will have price. So these are the characteristics which every book is going to possess. So we call these characteristics as attributes. Now, we may also want to perform certain actions on the object. Here in our program, the object is book. All the books are objects. So, we may want that some specific action should be performed on that book. So, what can be the action that can be performed? They can be like displaying its details. Means we may want to see the details. So, we will be performing the action of displaying details of the book. Or we may want to find its price. If we want to find its price, then we will take the action of finding price. So like this, we can perform various actions on the objects. Now, as we are talking about book, so basically now till now we were discussing about the example of creating a database application about a bookstore. Now let us relate this example of book with the OOP language. If we are relating this book example with the OOP language, then this entity, which we have taken as book, this can be treated as a class. Now, why it can be treated as a class? Let us see its reason. It is because a class is a physical or logical entity that has certain attributes. Now, first of all, focus on the word book. In our previous slides, we just talked that this book is having certain attributes, which were certain characteristics like title, author, publisher, price, all these things were the characteristics. So that means book has certain attributes. And it is also written that a class is a physical or logical entity. So here you can clearly tell that book is a physical entity because it exists physically. So of course it is a physical entity means it is satisfying this definition of class. So we can say that this entity like book can be treated as a class in our OOP language. Now we will be implementing all these things that we studied in our previous slides. We will be treating all these things in the OOP language and see what's the difference. Now we will be relating the book example with the OOP language. So we will be studying two main things which are data members and method members. First of all, let us discuss about data members. First of all, let us see what are the data members in this example. In this example of bookstore, we are having the data members as title, author, publisher, genre, price. All these are the data members. Now, why are they data members? It is because the data members are basically the characteristics or you can say the attributes of the object. So whatever attributes or characteristics the object is having, these will be the data members. So as we just saw in our previous slide that title, author, publisher, all these are the certain characteristic or attributes of the book, and book is a object. All the books are object. So here we can say that these are the data members. Now what are the method members? Here its name is suggesting that it is something related to method. So we can relate this to the certain actions that we want to perform. Means suppose you want to display the details. So what will be the method member or the method for displaying details of the book? It will be display. And for finding price, you can use the method get price. So basically here in method members, we are having various methods and these methods basically tell you how to perform that action. Means if you want to display the details, then how will the computer know that that action has to be performed? So for this purpose, you have to define the method so that the computer can know that you want to perform some action. And when you define the method, then after giving the method, that certain action is performed. Also here it is written, method members can get, set or update the class data members. Now coming to the relation between data members and method members. Basically, method members, as I just told you, that they are used to perform certain actions on the object. So it means that whenever we want to perform the action on the object, then we are going to use the method member. But what will be the impact of the certain action? Means who will be affected by that action? These data members. Means whatever action we are going to perform using the method members, they will be affected in the data members. For example, if you are wanting to display the details, then what are the details of the book? Basically, these data members are the details of the book, like title, author, publisher, all these are the details of the book. So you can say that whenever we are using these method members, they are getting, setting or updating the class data members. So here if we want to display, then what it is basically doing? It is setting, because here we are just going to display the details which are already given. But if we want the detail from the user, then we will use the getter methods. And if we want to update, means if we want to change some value, like we want to change the price or we want to change the title or anything, so for that we would update the data members. So who will do that? Method members will do that. Means whatever action is to be performed, that will be performed on the data members. And how will they be performed? They will be performed by the method members. So in total, you can say that the method members perform actions on the data members. So what will be the actions? Get, set or update. Now we are going to see that how the things are related between the bookstore example and OOP language. So here you can see in our example we are having the class as book. Why is it a class? I have already discussed that book is a physical entity. It is physically existing. So we can say that it is a physical entity and also it has certain attributes. And these attributes are basically the data members, and here all the data members are given. After it, we have given the method members, which are display and get price, and these will be performing certain actions on the data members. To describe one particular book in the library, you would create an object of the class book and fill in all its data members. Now, we are going to describe one particular book. Means we want that in our library, we should be describing things about one particular book. So for this, what we have to do? We have to create an object of the class book. We are having our classes book. Now we would be creating an object. As I already discussed, what will be the object? They will be like book 1, book 2, book 3 and so on. All these will be the object of the class book. Means all the books available in the bookstore will be the object of the class book, and fill in all its data members. By data members, we want that we should be filling all the attributes of the books. Means we should be filling the title, author, publisher, and all these data members will be filled in the data members. Means whatever detail is there, they are going to be filled in the data members. And how will you fill them? You will fill them using the method members, because method members are used to perform certain actions on the data members. And here we want to display these data members or display the details. So for this, we are going to use the method members. So now let us talk about the examples. So first of all, we are talking about our object, that is book 1. So in book 1, we are having these attributes: title, author, publisher, genre, price, and you can see we have filled in these details. That is, the title is Game of Thrones, author is George R. Martin. So like this, we have filled in all the details of all the attributes. As I told you in the very beginning that for all objects, the attributes will be the same. Means this thing, title, author, publisher, all these things will be same, but the details of these attributes will be different. For example, you can see for book 2, which is another object, we are having different title, different author, different publisher. Like this, we are having the different details, but we are having the same attributes. So whenever we are talking about a class and we are talking about its objects, so we can say that the attributes will be common for all the objects, but the details of those attributes will be different for different objects. Now, we are going to discuss about classes and objects, and we will be also focusing on the statement each object is an instance of a class. This statement we left in the beginning to be understood later, because at that time in the beginning you were not very much clear with the concept of object and class. But I think now with the help of example you are very much clear about object and class. So till now you have understood that we can create objects from the class. For example, in the previous example that we talked about the bookstore, so in that example, we were having the class as book. And what were the objects? These were like book 1, book 2, book 3, like this. All these were the objects. So, how were book 1, book 2, and book 3 created? Basically, these were created from class. So, we can say that we are going to create the object from class only. So that is why each object will be the instance of a class. Here also you can see a class is a template from which objects are created. Means we can just think that a class is a kind of template, and from this template we use this template to create objects from it. Means we can use the class book to create various types of book. Book 1, book 2, book 100, book 200, any book we are going to create from the class book. All objects of the same class have the same type of data members. Now, as I just told you in the previous slides that if we are talking about the same class, please remember the class should be same. If we are talking the objects of the same class, means we are talking about the objects which belong to the same class, then we can say that these objects will have the same type of data members. Why? Because these objects, let us understand this through example. Our example was about bookstore. Class was book. Objects were book 1, book 2, book 3, all these. So you may remember that every book, whether it be book 1 or book 2 or book 3, any book, it was having some attributes which were like title, author, publisher, and many more. So all these attributes or the data members, these were same for all the objects. Means all the books were possessing the same types of data members. Only the details of the data members were changed, but the data members, the type of the data members were same. That is why we can say that all objects of the same class have the same type of data members. This statement is true for all cases. Whenever we are going to talk about the same class object, then these objects will have the same types of data members. Now let us move to the next topic, and the last topic of the day, which is method members. First of all, we will be focusing on the example. In first example, we want to display the details of book 1. So for this, we will call the method member display of the class with book 1 as the invoking object. It means that whenever we are calling any method member, then we require an invoking object. Invoking means calling. So for calling method member, we require a calling object, and here we want to display the details of book 1. So what is the method member? It will be display. What is the action? It will be display the details of book. This will be the action, and method member display. And what is the object here? Here the object is book 1, and this object is calling this method member. That is why we are calling book 1 as the invoking or calling object. Similarly, if you want to display the details of book 2, then what is the certain action that will be performed here? It will be displaying the details of book. And what is the method member that we are going to use? It will be display. The method member is same in both the cases. Why? Because we want to perform the same action in both the examples, but we want to perform that action on different object. So basically the action that is to be performed is the same, but the object is different. That is why we will be choosing different invoking object in both the example. In first example book 1, and in second example book 2. Suppose if you want to display the details of book 5, then you will call the same method member, which is display, but what will be the invoking object? The invoking object will be book 5. Now coming to our first statement, method members of class are invoked or on an object to perform the action associated with that method. Means whenever we want to call the method members of a class, then we require some object. And why do we require these objects? Because we want to perform the action, and action can be performed on an object. So that is why we require object. And what will these objects do? Basically these objects will call the method members, and we have to perform that action associated with that method. For example, here what was the method member? Method member was display, and what was the certain action? It was displaying the details. So here we are relating this method member with the certain action performed, because this action is associated with this method. Means this action can only be performed when we are using this method member display.
If you want to purchase Class 12 IT Code 802 sample paper book, the links are given in the description.
So that was all for today. We'll meet you soon in the next video. Till then, bye bye.